Alright, welcome back everybody.
Welcome back.
Got a second edition of our college football bowl mania, college football picks, whatever you want to call it. To be honest with you, I think we did okay in our picks. I know we had more wins than losses, which is, not too bad. I think last time we were, 15-7. I think we ended up like 25 and 15 in our picks for the two average guys.
Not too bad.
It's not bad, but
I did probably pretty similar in my own one that I did. I ended up winning it actually, but yeah, I probably had like 13 or 14 wrong in that one.
Yeah. So what we're going to talk to you guys about today is the games we didn't have on the last show. We'll talk about the two playoff games, and also talk about the upcoming championship game coming up on Monday, the 11th, between Clemson and Alabama. So a couple good things to chat about today, but first let's take a look at some of the games that happened before New Year's Eve. So I think on the 29th we had
28th, 29th,
30th. So we'll talk about all those games, talk about games on the 31st, and then the games on Saturday the 2nd, and then we'll wrap it up with talking about the playoff games and moving forward from there. So, so first of all, I know this was one of the 30th game, maybe 30 or 31st. Houston killed Florida State.
Yes, that was on New Year's Eve.
They wiped them up, and that was one of our games where we had trouble picking because, for one, we didn't know when we picked our games, we didn't know who was going to be the quarterback for Florida State. We didn't know if Golson was going to play or McGuire was going to play. We had no idea. Knowing Houston's a good team, if Florida State was kind of on and off during the year, you just don't know when they come up against a Power 5 school.
And it has seemed like the last few years that group of 5, there's always like, that smaller conference, best team from the small conferences or whatever, goes in and plays one of these big time schools or, somebody that kind of faltered down at the end of the season or had a couple losses in one of these big bowl games. And it's like Florida States don't care, and Houston's the biggest game of the year, so that team always wins. So I didn't have a problem picking Houston. I picked them pretty big in my other one, actually.
And they did pretty well. They played really well in Florida State.
14, I think.
Yeah, Florida State. I mean, they struggled big time, and I was happy. I don't like Florida State, so for me, seeing Jimbo Fisher lose again for the 4th time this year was pretty exciting. So LSU, Texas Tech, that wasn't even a game. Fournette ran all over them and killed Texas Tech. LSU looked like the team. Texas Tech, not to say that they're that great of a team, but LSU looked like the team that they were supposed to be all year, the way they played.
Well, in Texas Tech, they had a pretty good offense. I mean, they should beat TCU early on in the season, but their defense, they can't stop anybody. You can't win a game, you can't stop anybody. You can score 70 points, but it's kind of 77.
It's kind of the story of the Big 12 all year.
Yeah, exactly.
Even excluding Oklahoma, they're probably the best defense, but. Then we had USC. They lost to Wisconsin. I think it was a 2-point game, 23-21.
And it was,
that was a good game.
I went to bed that night. Wisconsin was down 21-20.
Yep.
I just couldn't stay awake, and woke up in the morning and saw they had kicked a field goal at the end and lost that one. But
I mean, it was a hell of a game. Good job.
Played really good defense.
Big Ten. Well done on that game.
Yep.
It's a big win against Pac-12. USC had a good second half of the season.
For sure. They really turned things around after
Sarkisian was gone. Yeah. I think we talked a little bit about that last time, but congrats to Wisconsin on that win in the Big Ten.
Yeah, that was a little bit.
Auburn beat Memphis. I think we had Memphis winning that.
We had Memphis winning, and I mean Memphis beat Ole Miss. Memphis had a really good season. Auburn down here. I really thought I'd see Memphis coming into that game and playing like they did against Ole Miss. They're playing a big program, SEC. They come out firing and look a little better than they did. They had some turnovers, I think.
Yeah.
Auburn capitalized. I thought Auburn would kind of play it as like a whatever type of game we played in Memphis. but they came out to play and they beat them up.
And Auburn's young quarterback, it was Johnson, is that his last name?
Jefferson?
Jefferson.
Jefferson
Johnson, one of two. Their young quarterback, he had a hell of a game. Played really well. You know, he's one of those kids that they're really looking to be like the next Cam
Newton. I was just going to say
at
that.
Auburn, which we mentioned on one of our first couple shows during the beginning of the year. And, you know, he has the potential to be there, just needs that consistency. And in this game, he was pretty consistent against Memphis, and, you know, it paid off for them to get the bowl win at the end of the year. So we had Mississippi State and NC State. Now, we picked NC State thinking that, you know, this is kind of one of those games where we're going to pick, you know, an upset. But Mississippi State was up and down all year, too. So we didn't really know what to see from them. And they showed up.
They played.
They killed NC State.
They killed them. I mean, it wasn't close at any point in time.
No, but NC State normally does really well throughout the season, not necessarily record-wise, but they have good years.
They usually send some pretty good amount of guys to the NFL. You see, like, NC State guys going pretty high up in the draft. They always have a good, you know, defensive lineman or offensive lineman or linebacker or something. But no, they didn't have their best game. I thought I'd expect a little more out of them, but ACC kind of struggled in the bowl.
They did.
Bowl season, except for Clemson, obviously.
Next game, Louisville wins 27-21 over Texas A&M. So another SEC team going down. Louisville wins that game. Now that was a really good game as well. Louisville played their hearts out. I think we picked Louisville in that game as well.
Yep, I thought Louisville would win. Texas A&M had 2 quarterbacks quit at the end of the year.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was rough on them. You know, rough end of the season for A&M. Someone's sticking around though; they're not going to get rid of him. AD backs him, but it came out today that AD actually backs Kevin Sumlin, but then he put in his notice he's done. AD's leaving the program.
That's weird.
So he resigns, but he backs Sumlin 100%, and I don't think it's a Kevin Sumlin problem. I think it's, you know, you can always point to the coaches no matter what, but I think it's a player issue, a recruitment issue, which comes down to some other coaching, not just him. But
well, and I saw that quarterback from Oklahoma, Knight, he is transferring to Texas A&M.
Yeah, Trevor Knight.
Today.
Yep, and then
Trevor Knight.
The A&M quarterback is going to Houston. There's one.
One of them. He went to Houston
what's
today.
his name? Which one?
I know his name. It's on tip of my tongue. I just can't think of it.
Well, one of the quarterbacks for A&M is going to Houston. So Houston is going to need a quarterback right now.
Yeah, and they're. Yeah, I don't know.
No. A&M needs a quarterback now.
A&M needs a quarterback right now.
And so that's good for them. Houston, they're going to have a quarterback in the system now. So because that was a young quarterback that they got from A&M. So it's a win for Houston there. I think he's going to be a good quarterback for him. Let's see, what other games we got? So we got. Let's talk about some of the New Year's Day games.
New Year's Day was.
Actually, let's hold off on that. Let's talk about the better games, and then we'll go to the crappy games. Okay. So let's go to Saturday, January 2nd, that Saturday. Probably some of the best games we saw throughout the entire bowl season. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is probably one of the best bowl seasons we've had as far as a lot of close matchups between teams where people might have thought, hey, it should be a blowout.
It was kind of opposite of what you would have thought. The games you thought would have been good ended up being really bad. Like on paper, or like when the matchups came out, it was like, oh, sweet, that'll be awesome. But not good.
Hindsight's 20/20. So you look at the games like, yeah, this should be a good game, and then it ends up being crappy. So we had. Let's talk about Georgia Penn State. Ended up being a really good game. Now Georgia jumped out early on Penn State.
I thought they'd beat them up, and Penn State came back.
They came back, and Georgia struggled in the second half on defense. Ended up giving 2 late touchdowns to Penn State, and it ended up being the game. Penn State at the end, they had the ball, just ran out of time and couldn't get a playoff to get one more shot at the end zone. And really good game though. Georgia hung out to win. A really close game there against Penn State.
Would have liked to have seen a Big Ten beat a SEC there, even though we picked Georgia.
Yeah, and news out of Penn State, which you guys probably heard, Hackenberg is going to the NFL next year. Or he's going to the draft. So he wants to go NFL. He's going pro. So good luck to him. Next we had Arkansas and who did Arkansas beat?
They played Kansas State.
K-State. My bad. I put the wrong team down. So Arkansas played Kansas State.
It's not the first time.
And I believe we picked Arkansas on that one as well.
Oh yeah, they killed them.
Arkansas killed Kansas State. Now Kansas State had a few good games throughout the year.
They might have kept it close with some decent teams in the Big 12, but
and Arkansas had a terrible start to the season. They lost to Toledo. They're one of their first games, first or second game of the year. No one saw that coming.
And I mean, Toledo had an all right season. Arkansas, though, I mean, they beat Ole Miss in that overtime game. That crazy, probably one of the craziest plays of the year. And if they would have lost that game, Ole Miss would have been in the SEC championship.
Yeah, and probably.
I actually wish that would have happened.
That would have been nice. But anyway, so Arkansas kills K-State in their bowl game. Then we had the Oregon game. Oregon and TCU. I should call it the TCU game. Oregon jumps out 31-0 at half. I stopped watching the game. I turned on hockey.
Me too.
I'm like, forget this game. This is boring. So the Stars were playing, the Blues were playing. I started watching, not each other, but I was switching back and forth between those two games. I said, forget the football game. And then I was like, all right, let's see how the game's going. Let's see how bad it is. I was probably like 50-something to nothing.
Top 7 or something.
And it was 31-14 when I turned, or 31-17 when I turned the game back on. I'm like, oh, that's a two-score game. I'm going to start watching again. And sure enough, come to learn that Oregon's quarterback got hurt.
Yeah.
TCU was already without Boykin, playing with their backup, his first and only start of his career as a senior. This is his only first start ever.
Played pretty good too.
And he had Clausen as his.
I don't even know. It's
Clauhausen. It's some crazy last name.
Like that.
But he had a hell of a game. He comes out and he charges back in the second half, and they score. All they gave up in the third quarter was 3 points to Oregon, correct?
They didn't give up any points before in the second half.
Okay, so
it was 31-0 at half.
That's right. So 31-0 at half, and then they decided to just go out and kick the crap out of Oregon. Defensively, TCU played well. They tied it up, and they went to triple OT to decide that game. And that was a fun game to watch.
I had a lot of points on Oregon in this, so it kind of made me mad, but it didn't end up factoring. I still won anyway, so it's not a big deal. It was a fun game. I mean, that's kind of what you want. I mean, no one should be up 31-0 at halftime and lose.
No.
If that happened in Nebraska, there would be riots.
Riots in the streets.
And maybe not necessarily in a bowl game, but a bowl game that doesn't mean that much.
It's one of those things where, honestly, even with a backup quarterback, a lot of teams were playing with backup quarterbacks this year and didn't struggle like Oregon did in their game. So they really struggled in the second half.
He got hurt earlier on in the season, and they were terrible for the couple games. That's the only reason why they aren't in a bigger bowl game or a chance at a playoff or something, is because he was out for a couple games and they lost.
Yep. So sucks for Oregon, but congratulations to TCU for coming back and winning that game. I didn't think they had a chance without their leading wide receiver and with Boykin being a moron getting arrested for punching a cop. So next we got West Virginia
and Arizona State.
That
was awesome.
That was a fun game to watch.
I watched most of that game.
And that was a very fun game to watch.
For most of the second half, I guess.
Skylar Howard, their quarterback, threw for 532 yards in that game.
5 TDs, 2 picks, but 500 yards.
That's insane.
That's ridiculous.
That accounted for 5 TDs. That's 35 of their 43 points. 43, 42. So, I mean, that was a hell of a game for West Virginia, but Arkansas, Arizona State.
I think they missed an extra point, which almost potentially could have cost them the game. I can't remember everything. It was a Saturday night.
And clearly, Jason, you know what my Saturday night was. It was I misposted on our Facebook page that Oregon or TCU blew with the 31-point lead. It was not TCU. It was Oregon. So
by the time I
drank a little bit.
By the time I looked, it had been changed, and so I was like, "What are you guys talking about?" Figured
but anyways,
something up.
West Virginia wins 43-42 in that game. A hell of a fun game to watch, and great showing for Arizona State.
Actually, that was one of the big factors in me winning my pool. So thanks for West Virginia. There you go.
All right, let's talk about the really crappy games before we talk about the playoff games, which one of them was really crappy.
You can take it crappy games, like you can take it that way, or you can take it as like beatdowns that you were hoping for, like Michigan over Florida.
It's a little bit of both. So let's talk Michigan over Florida. So Michigan just destroyed Florida, which
Florida sucked.
We've been talking about all year. Florida is not what everyone thought they were. They won a lot of close games on field goals. And they didn't look good all year. You can say, oh,
any good team they played, they got killed.
They learned how to win. No, they didn't.
Other than maybe Tennessee, they were getting beat and they came back and beat them.
And they had a last-second field goal against Tennessee, and Tennessee wasn't all that great this year. So Michigan, Big Ten, destroyed SEC,
41-7.
Killed Florida. I was happy.
Florida's last. I mean, we should really go back and look. I know they put up a few points against Alabama in the SEC championship game, but between their game against Florida State, Alabama, and Michigan, how many points did they score? Maybe 21 points in 3 games?
Maybe.
I mean, horrible.
Terrible. Florida, terrible. McElwain, you got some work.
They only scored 2 points against Florida State.
Yeah. That was embarrassing. Tennessee killed Northwestern. Now, this was a little bit of a surprise.
I was not very happy
because we just said Tennessee was not that great. Now Tennessee just killed Northwestern, who Northwestern had a 10-2 season,
and they were ranked, 13th.
They're 13th. They got killed.
I watched some of this game after it got out of hand. I quit watching it, but Northwestern's offense is just not that great. Tennessee's defense is pretty decent.
Yeah.
Their offense is all right. They have kind of a dual threat quarterback that can run. He's kind of a tall, lanky guy. It's pretty decent.
Yeah.
Northwestern kind of won this year on running the ball with Jackson and stopping. I mean, they gave up 6 points to Stanford.
I think they had quite a few turnovers.
6 points they gave up to Stanford.
Yeah. Their defense was strong. They created turnovers, and that's how they won games. And they couldn't do that against Tennessee.
They didn't do that. Tennessee got kind of rolling on them and they found something that was breaking through the defense, and they just let it roll. Northwestern couldn't score any points. Bad game.
Northwestern is going to have a good season again next year. I mean, they always do. They have the last few seasons. So now, Ole Miss destroyed Oklahoma State.
One of the worst games.
Just terrible. I mean, Oklahoma State, it's like they didn't even show up for the game. They got a bunch of guys off the street, put them in clothes to play football, and go out and do your best. And it was just terrible.
It was bad.
From start to finish. I mean, Ole Miss was not a bad team this year. Don't get me wrong. Not a bad team, but they weren't as good as Oklahoma State made them look in that bowl game.
Well, and Oklahoma State was, I know that earlier on in the year they kind of were squeaking by with wins, but they kind of got hot in the middle.
And they had a chance at a playoff.
They did. They were one of the teams. That's why they were in a New Year's Six. I mean, they lost their last two games, 3 games, including the bowl game.
Yeah.
But, excuse me, they did not look like they deserved, like they belonged in that game.
No, they really didn't.
It was not a very fun game to watch. I stopped watching after a short period of time.
Yep, so did I. I was like,
I don't like to do that, but if it's, like 28-0 or 28-7, it's like,
what's the point? All right, so the other 2 games to talk about on New Year's Day. Ohio State, they pretty much routed Notre Dame. Notre Dame, man, they just... Nothing. Fuller wasn't involved. Procise wasn't involved. Now
Fuller did have an 81-yard touchdown reception,
but that was about it.
It was
Kaiser,
it was to kind of jumpstart a potential comeback.
Kaiser didn't have a great game. Now Ohio State's defense is not that great. They have Bosa's their best player. He got kicked out in the second quarter for the clear targeting call. By the way, you can't ram your head into.
I disagree.
Chest of the quarterback.
I disagree with the fact that. There was somebody talking about it, how these guys can scream, yell, cuss at officials. Coaches can, players and coaches yell back and forth at each other. There's all kinds of things going on. But then, because you hit somebody too hard, you get kicked out of the game. I mean, and I know he put his head in his chest. He should have gotten kicked out for that.
Yeah.
Per the rule, I just think that some of these rules they need to evaluate
and we'll get there in a second because I got some thoughts on some other hits that I've seen. But Ohio State's beats Notre Dame. Good for the Big Ten, but I hate Ohio State and Urban Meyer, so that sucks. But next year they lose a lot of people.
Notre Dame lost Procise. He's going pro.
Yes, he's going pro. I wouldn't be surprised if Fuller did. He hasn't announced anything, but I wouldn't be shocked if he stays another year.
I can't remember if he
stays another year, potential Heisman candidate.
Yeah.
But a receiver, it's hard
depending on, it'll be interesting to see who Notre Dame rolls with their quarterback next year.
Yeah, true.
Not a bad problem to have, I guess.
No.
Although with the way Ohio State, that was not a bad problem to have going into this year, and they didn't do much.
It took a while to figure it out, but Iowa Stanford.
Sorry, Jason.
Man, I gotta say it again. I've been saying it all year. McCaffrey should have won the Heisman.
Oh, he should.
He comes out 368 all-purpose yards. He didn't have a rushing TD, but he had a 75-yard TD 11 seconds into the game. Game's over. This game is done.
A pass.
McCaffrey, 75 yards, touchdown.
Untouched. A reception as a running
He
back. Untouched.
He had 2 Rose Bowl records. He's the first guy to have over 100 rushing, over 100 reception yards.
It came close. He needed a catch down at the end, and he caught one, but it was a lateral, so it didn't count.
And then he didn't play for like 4 or 5.
Well, then Iowa had the ball and went on a long touchdown drive. If they wouldn't have scored a touchdown, I don't think that he would have got it because they probably would have just ran the clock out.
Yeah.
I was a little bit upset with Stanford throwing that last touchdown pass they threw. That was kind of unnecessary.
I wasn't.
I know you're hyped up about like being in a big time game. Mainly, I'm just because Jason was at the game. I want Jason to have a good time, and I saw that
he had a good time.
He posted that it was like the best time ever until the game started.
Until the game. Well, not really until the game started, but definitely about after the first quarter. But Stanford dominated that game, and Stanford showed why they are so good all around. You have McCaffrey who can run the ball. You have Hogan who can not only throw the ball, but he can run the ball as well. They don't see him necessarily as a dual threat quarterback, but he's kind of like an Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers can throw the ball. He can throw it long. He can throw it hard. But he can also run it when he sees the opening. He's gone.
Yeah.
He just goes. And Aaron Rodgers is not a fast runner, but he knows how to read a defense. And as soon as those linebackers, if they split this way and he sees an opening, he's going to go.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what Hogan does.
And I felt bad. I mean, Stanford, let's be honest, at this point in time in the season, they're probably one of the top 4 teams, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's just too bad they lost the first week of the season the way they did. And then a little slip-up 2-point loss against Oregon, who at that point in time was getting hot.
Yep.
If they wouldn't have had that slip-up probably against Northwestern at the beginning of the year, they kind of laid an egg to start the year. They probably would have seen themselves in the 4th spot in the playoff.
Absolutely.
And I would really like to see them play Alabama right now. I think that'd be awesome.
Because you know what Alabama struggles with? It's a spread offense.
Yep.
And Stanford, I think, would kill them. I think Stanford would win that game. And I don't think they wouldn't kill them, but they would beat them.
I think so.
Because
that's why I said that kind of sucks.
You prepare for McCaffrey. Even the teams that prepare for McCaffrey cannot beat McCaffrey. The one team that did it this year, that kept him out of the game, was Notre Dame. Yep. They are the only team the entire year whose defense was able to keep McCaffrey from getting yards, getting TDs, and beating them.
They kind of stacked the box.
Hogan beat them.
Basically, yeah, that's exactly. Notre Dame basically going into that game against Stanford said, if you're going to beat us, it's going to have to be Hogan. We're not going to let McCaffrey do anything. And he didn't. I mean, he didn't. He had a couple probably okay runs and maybe even scored a touchdown or two. I don't remember.
Touchdowns,
they were probably short yardage touchdowns. They stacked the box against him, and so I mean, I guess Alabama does have a really good run defense, but I think Hogan would have been able to throw on him. I think it would have been.
He would have been able to scramble on him.
Yeah.
So now let's flip it over to the Alabama game. For our first playoff game, they played Michigan State. Now, what did Michigan State prepare for? What did D'Antonio and his team prepare for the entire time they had to prepare for Alabama?
Probably Connor Cook throwing the ball and Henry.
They prepared for Henry running the ball.
Yeah, defensive wise.
And they wanted to rely on Cook throwing the ball. What didn't happen?
Well,
Henry didn't do what?
He was hardly in the. I mean, they didn't need him.
He didn't run the ball.
Yeah.
2, Cook. What didn't he do?
He couldn't. I mean, it was like when Nebraska played Michigan State.
Couldn't complete a damn pass.
The first half of the game,
he was terrible.
Like all their play, I don't know if it was the play calls or just like the way. Maybe it was the environment, and maybe it was nerves or whatever for that game. But like when Nebraska played Michigan State, he couldn't complete a pass in the first half, and I was like, man, matchup wise, this is like the best for Michigan State and the worst for Nebraska, and we were stopping them. And it was like they must have watched the game film from the first half of the Nebraska game.
Maybe this is why Connor Cook was never considered a captain by his team.
I guess.
I mean,
apparently he's the number 2 overall pocket passing quarterback in the draft.
Absolutely not. I mean, you watch that throw, that interception that he threw in the second half to get points on the board. 17-0, I think.
I did see a replay of it.
When he threw that pass, that's a simple fade pass to the corner of the end zone, or it's a back shoulder pass to the corner to the pylon. Instead, he threw a line drive right to the defender. I mean, it wasn't even close. It wasn't even close. It was the worst pass I've seen by any quarterback all year, minus maybe some of Tommy's. But other than that, like, for a team like Michigan State and for a quarterback like Cook, who you know has the potential to be great.
Yeah, and he probably will
that
be.
Pass
He'll be pretty good in the NFL.
Just terrible.
Yeah.
And that just drained him. I think at the end of that first half, knowing they got no points on the board when they had the opportunity to, the best drive they had all game, and they don't get points, I think that just took them down the rest of the game. And they didn't need Henry.
Well, and like I said, they had to put these games on damn New Year's Eve. So, and I found out some info about that. Apparently, the Rose Bowl would not budge on giving up the New Year's Day because they've had that slot or whatever for so long. And so then I think that might have jump-started then the Sugar Bowl and the Fiesta Bowl to say kind of the same thing. We're not giving up our time slots. Whatever. Anyway, I did not see any of this game because
you have more important things.
There was New Year's Eve plans that I got stuck with, I suppose you would say.
Women.
Ended up being a fun night. Hope everybody had a safe, fun New Year's Eve. I had a fantastic steak and got a bunch of free drinks, so I wasn't too upset. But I didn't get to see this. I was keeping up with it, obviously, at dinner. I was on the phone the whole time.
But one thing I do gotta say about Alabama, as much as I hate Alabama, one thing you can't deny is how good Coker is.
He's better than I thought.
So the SEC championship game against Florida, Derrick Henry got the MVP of that game. He wasn't the MVP though. Coker was. He got the MVP. I think that boosted his Heisman hopes.
That's exactly why you got it.
Even though he shouldn't have won it. Coker should have. Coker, I believe, and I hope he got the MVP of this game against Michigan State, because Coker's the reason why they won. He had 75 rush yards. Henry did. 75. And if you watched the Stanford game, you knew that because the guy behind McCaffrey was yelling, Heisman! Henry, 75 yards! He was annoying. He kind of looked like Harbaugh, which is kind of funny. Harbaugh.
It was funny.
But Michigan State didn't show up. Alabama did, and they prepared a game without Henry. Said, you're not even going to – we don't even need you to play because we're going to rely on Ridley to catch the ball. Was it Drake, I think is one of their other –
something like that.
I think it's Drake. One of the other wide receivers. Those two can run the ball on the sweeps, and that's what they did. So they'd fake it to Henry and give it on a sweep. Fortunately for them,
they
destroyed them
going into that game, and they're not going to be able to do the same thing against Clemson. Preparing wise and game wise, but going into that game, all Michigan State's thinking about is we got to stop Henry, so they could open up whatever they wanted.
Which was crazy because Michigan State also has one of the best rush defenses. So as far as a matchup, they have the same style of offense and the same style of defense, minus the run game. But they have they both have a good quarterback. They both have a good defensive line, a good rush defense. But their pass defenses is where they struggle.
Yeah.
Michigan State's first possession, and I think I texted you about it. They threw a pass on the very first play.
Okay.
Pass interference on number 29 of the defense.
Yeah,
I can't remember his name now. Pass interference, though. And it was clear. He didn't turn his head. He was hugging the guy. Pass interference. The next 3 plays, what'd they do? Run, quarterback draw on 3rd and 6 or something, 3rd and 9. Connor Cook is not a runner. What the hell are you doing, Michigan State?
And
so
I want to say,
I just don't get it. So first pass, you get a pass interference where the guy clearly had a beat, and the guy grabs him. Why won't you try to pass again? Keep passing the ball instead of running it 3 times. On third and 9, pass the damn ball. Hope for, if the guy's not open, hope for pass interference because that guy was getting beat every time they threw to him. Every time. He had like 3 PIs all game.
Well, and when Nebraska played Michigan State, I want to say Michigan State came out and like ran the ball 3 times and went 3 and out, or ran twice and then they threw a pass on 3rd down and Nebraska knocked it away. And everybody's like, I mean, good, but why are you not?
Are you gonna throw the ball?
Why are you not throwing the ball?
On
Have you watched the last 5 Nebraska games? Have you seen 7 Nebraska games? Seen how everybody's throwing all over us all game?
Yeah.
You're gonna come out and run, and you have one of the best pocket passing quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Like,
so I think it was a combination of Michigan State's game plan on defense to stop Henry, screwed him, and then their game plan on offense to pass the ball. They didn't do it like they should have.
Well, and I think that Mark Mark, that's been the debate.
Mike and Mark.
Because I think it was Sports Illustrated posted an article that said Mike D'Antonio. But Mark D'Antonio is a great coach, and I mean,
when it comes to
him and Saban coached together. He was under Saban, I think.
Yeah.
Kind of came up underneath him at Michigan State.
When it comes to Nebraska rivals in the Big Ten, D'Antonio, Michigan State, they have some of the best coaches. Basketball, Izzo. Those 2 guys, I respect the hell out of them because they stand for more than just the game itself. They look at developing players as adults.
And they do.
As kids, and they do a great job. And I can't say enough about Michigan State and their coaching, but during that game, they just didn't show up as a football team, and the game plan was poor. So we talked a little bit about that spread offense, how Alabama struggles. So now they're going to play Clemson. Clemson played Oklahoma. Clemson has a spread offense. They have Deshaun Watson, who's a dual threat quarterback. He can throw the ball a long ways. He's accurate. He can run the ball.
I don't want to say that. I don't want to jinx anything because I really want Clemson to win this game. But he runs for over 100 yards, throws for over 100 yards every game.
Yeah.
Because I think he can do that against Alabama. I certainly hope he can. If he does that, I think it'll be a good game. Probably a close game.
Yeah.
Clemson's defense is a little better than people thought. I thought that they would beat Oklahoma. I didn't think they'd beat Oklahoma by 20 points. Everybody's saying Oklahoma's going to win the national championship. They're going to beat Clemson. They're going to beat Alabama.
Oklahoma, Bama, 2 best teams in the country at the end of the year. And we said all along, we disagreed. We said all along, Oklahoma is good, but they're not one of the best teams in the country. And Clemson proved that. How they beat Oklahoma.
And something that did hurt them, which could be one of the deciding factors, is they had P. Ryan, who's really good.
Yep.
And he got hurt. Yep. And their other running back got hurt. They were kind of bouncing them back and forth in. Both of them were going down every other play. Henry for Alabama against Clemson. I mean, if he's not getting hurt and they're running the ball with them, could be a little different story. But Clemson, their defense was playing pretty well.
Yeah.
They picked Baker Mayfield off twice, and I think he only had like 3 or 4 interceptions all season.
Yeah. Well, and Mayfield, like you said, maybe they got some running backs hurt, but Baker Mayfield is supposed to be the man. I mean, he's the guy that was supposed to be the playmaker for this team, and going into that game, he was supposed to be the difference maker. So you lose a couple running backs, or they're in and out, that's fine. Your quarterback, who you've been relying on the entire season, who's, Heisman, where he didn't show up.
And their offensive line, I don't know if it was Clemson's defensive packages, whatever.
That's pretty good.
They sacked Baker Mayfield a bunch of times in that game.
A lot of pressure.
They were getting in there and either making him throw the ball away, or more often than not, they were sacking him.
Yep.
So
it was for me, that was a fun game to watch. A lot of people are like, oh, the 2 playoff games were crappy because Bama destroyed Michigan State, Clemson destroyed Oklahoma. But for me, it was exciting because I wanted Clemson to win. I like Dabo Swinney. I like him a lot. I think he's a wonderful coach, and he's a wonderful advocate for more outside of football. And one thing I saw, the difference between the Clemson-Oklahoma game and Michigan State-Alabama game, I'm always a big fan of sportsmanship. And when you watch a game with Clemson and Oklahoma, if you ever watch a replay or see how they interacted on the field, there wasn't all that chippiness. I'm sure there was some talking, but you didn't see it. At least the camera didn't see it.
Yeah.
At one point, there was a penalty being called, or maybe there was something under review. And I saw an Oklahoma player, Deshaun Watson, and I think it was one of the receivers. The 3 of them were sitting there, all 3, just standing, talking. they were talking at the very end. They all smacked each other on the helmet and shook each other's hands. I mean, that kind of stuff to me shouts more than the football game itself. And then you got Alabama, Michigan State. Those were one of the first, second, third play of the game. All of a sudden, there's chippiness, there's pushing, there's pulling. Yeah, there was just crap talking. And then I don't really like that. I don't think that's a Michigan State team.
I would say that's Alabama.
That's Nick Saban, which Nick Saban might be going to the NFL, possibly Miami next year. If he gets the right offer, I wouldn't be shocked.
I would be shocked. I think he wants to stay in college. I would probably want to stay in college. I've heard that him and his wife just love Tuscaloosa. I mean, they have everything. They can get. I mean, they can buy whatever they want. They can get whatever they want. And he's won. I mean, he's going to be under pressure to make it to the playoff every year.
Yeah.
But with winning, he's won what, 3 national championships in 6 years. He wins again this year. 4 national championships in 7 years. I mean, what? You stumble 1 year, is everybody gonna throw you, roll over the, throw you on the ground and roll over you on the bus or whatever?
Yeah.
I mean,
well, I think I can't remember if we talked about it last time, but now there's the standard of if you don't make the playoff, you fail. As a season. I mean, that's unfair. I mean, you can have a 9-3 season. That's not a bad season. That's a good season. You can have a 10-2 season and still not make the playoff. You can be 11-1 and not make the playoff.
The problem is that.
But that's what the standard is.
And in years past, up until last year when the playoffs started, there was only 2 teams that made it to the national championship.
Yep.
So if you made it to a BCS game at that point in time, the big games, the Sugar Bowl, the Rose Bowl, like that was a good year, which it still is. But now with 4 teams making it to the playoff, now it's like there's 4 slots. You can't get in the top 4. Whereas you got to get in the top 2. Yeah, that's a little tougher. Yeah. Now there's 4 slots. Now it's like, yeah, you got to get it. Oh, you're not in there.
Yeah, and I don't like Saban whatsoever. I've said it many times, but when he came out and talked about how it's unfair to judge a team on whether or not they get to the playoff, I completely agree. I mean, Notre Dame had a great season. Stanford had a great season. All those teams that were just outside looking in, they had great seasons.
Technically, Ohio State was 11-1, lost the game by 3 points.
Yeah. Ohio State had a great season. As much as I hate them, they had a great season.
They had a great season. Record-wise, they struggled. I know they
struggled all year, but
who didn't?
But
other than maybe Clemson, they struggled in a couple games.
They struggled some games,
but they
went undefeated.
And somebody was talking about it, how before the season, some college football guy said this was going to be the best college football season ever. And the guys I was listening to talking about this were like, couldn't have been farther from the truth. All this stuff, and I'm like,
I completely disagree.
Why don't you take a look back at each week? Each week there was something crazier than the week before. And yeah, the bowl season kind of sucked. The big games everybody wanted to watch, they sucked. A lot of the games that were close in the bowl games, no one cared about. Either they watched because there's football on, or I don't really care about that game, and then the game was close.
But if you're a college football fan, that's what you love to see. You love to see those close games, no matter who it is. I mean, West Virginia, Arizona State.
I could care less, honestly.
Unless you go to school there or live there, who gives a shit? It doesn't matter. But to me, that 43-42, hell of a game to watch. And it wasn't like it was 40-0, and then they scored 42 points. I mean,
and I will say, even I don't like basketball. Everyone knows this, but I like the NCAA basketball tournament because you can fill out a bracket and you can watch the games and highlight the teams that won and cross out the teams that lost. Maybe you throw a few bucks in with some friends or whatever. And then, I mean, the same type of thing can happen with this. You fill out a confidence points like we did, but you can actually jump on board. Then, it is pretty fun to watch. So, in that sense, the bowl games, yes, they were pretty fun to watch. And you know what? In a lot of these big games, I put a lot of points on them because I thought they would go the way they did, and they did.
Yeah.
I picked all those New Year's Six bowls right.
And here's what happens. I think this was by far one of the best college football seasons.
I agree.
I think it was a lot of fun. Each week, we talked about, we're going to talk about these 4 or 5 games for this next week. And then we ended up talking about 12 games because there were so many good games to talk about that we didn't expect to talk about.
We would still talk about the 5 games we picked, but a lot of times 2 or 3 of them would be like, Yeah, they're not really worth talking about.
And then,
But these other
maybe
3,
should
4
throw those in
games,
there.
we should have thrown in. Let's talk about those because those are crazy.
So yeah, so it was a very good season. Now we got one game left. One game left.
One
on
game
Monday.
left on Monday.
Championship game.
I'll be watching.
Clemson, Alabama.
Gotta hope Clemson.
I picked Clemson to win.
So did I.
34-24.
I won my pool and I picked Clemson to win, and everybody else picked Oklahoma to win.
I think Clemson's gonna win by 10. The only reason why is because of the spread offense, because of Deshaun Watson dual threat.
You haven't picked 10, huh? I know that it opened with 10. I mean, 10 seems like a stretch, but it's not really. I would say somewhere between 7 and 10. Love for them to beat Alabama by like 14. That'd be awesome.
There we going.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Clemson by 14.
Clemson by 14. I got Clemson by 10. So go Clemson. All right, guys, that's all we got today. Once again, we are just two average guys. We have a lot of opinions. A lot of them you probably don't like. Jason, I'm sorry that you had such a bad experience with Iowa losing, but two average guys. We'll be back after the championship game. Thanks for watching.
Thanks.